This show begins on the shores of the Columbia River in the middle of the majestic Columbia River Gorge. Passengers are loading up on the Sternwheeler Columbia Gorge for a scenic 2-hour ride near the town of Cascade Locks and the famous Bridge of the Gods. It was during the mid-1800s when paddle boats crowded this river, using this water highway as the main source of transportation. Today, this replica sternwheeler is one of a few that ply these waters, taking sightseers back to a time when this rugged territory was just being explored.
We'd like to welcome everybody aboard the Sternwheeler Columbia Gorge. Just got her cut loose. And we'll be heading down to Bonneville Dam initially. From Bonneville, come back upriver to Stevenson, Washington. Upriver ways, then back into Cascade Locks. This is our first cruise of the day, which is our Lewis and Clark cruise. Now the area we're just leaving from is where paddle boats left from in the middle 1800s. They had landings right here and directly across the river from us, where you see the old mill over there. They landed here because of the Cascade Rapids, a rapid system they couldn't negotiate. So they put freight and passengers ashore and portaged overland around these rapids.
Captain Tom Cramblett was raised here in Cascade Locks. Besides the job of maneuvering this floating time capsule in the strong currents of the Columbia, he has the responsibility of sharing the history of the area.
We are an authentic sternwheeler. The wheel's the only thing that makes us go. Built at Hood River, 20 miles east of us by Nichols Boat Works. 1983 was our maiden voyage. First builders and operators of these paddle boats, Mississippi fellas that came over the Oregon Trail, saw the need for the type of vessel they ran in the Midwest here in the Northwest. Started building in 1850, built into the early 1900s. As many as 500 paddle boats ran in the Northwest during that era. A variety of boats, side wheelers, stern wheelers. Boats less than 100 feet in length, we're 147. Boats up to 300 feet in length. We cruise at about 10 knots, 11.5 miles an hour. Some boats can do 25 to 30 miles an hour. Now, we got ourselves a pretty nice day out here on the Columbia. But when Lewis and Clark came through, October 30th of 1805, they said the wind was howling, it was raining on them, snow in the mountains. In April of 1806, on their way back upriver, again, lots of wind, lots of rainfall, and even snow in the mountains. So this was no easy task for them at all. Said the men stayed soaked to the bone as they came through here, gave out from fatigue, packing these large, cumbersome canoes overland around these rapids.
This area was once a maze of giant swirling rapids formed from an ancient rock slide. Now the rapids are a distant memory due to the building of the Bonneville Dam in 1938. Captain Tom knows how important this stretch of river is.
Well, one of the things we're able to do here on the Sternwheeler Columbia Gorge is to be able to take people back in time, back in history, and put them back on the water. And the water was a main route for man to be able to get through this mountain range. So everybody used it, whether it was the Native Americans, whether it was famous explorers who discovered the West, or whether it was Lewis and Clark, Oregon pioneers, the first great migrations. Everyone came down this river, and they were on the water, is how they traveled. They traveled by canoes, by bateaus, by paddle boats, by rafts, all types of methods. And we're able to take people in a real comfortable sternwheeler up and down through the Cascade Rapid area, which was a very important area to those people too. This was a natural block to transportation, so they had to portage overland, but we're able to give them kind of a water view of what all those people had to do.
Certainly, water transportation has improved since the turn of the century. Sternwheelers like the Columbia Gorge, with its leisurely pace on the water, can allow visitors a good look at life on the river. Offering dinner cruises as well as the popular short historic rides, these magnificent boats are a great way for families to get up close and personal with the Columbia River Gorge.
Now, as we look around the area, the basic lay of the land here is going to be the same as it was for Lewis and Clark. Hasn't changed too much, but the biggest change is the river itself. With the dams, there's very little fluctuation, 5 or 6 feet throughout the year, so the vegetation grows right to the water's edge. Before the dams, though, this river could fluctuate more than 60 feet between low water and high water. So in October of 1805, Lewis and Clark would have been looking at a real barren shoreline. The river would have been very low at that time. In April of 1806, said the river was about 20 feet higher than it was on the way downriver.
And like on any boat ride, everyone, young and old, wants to sit in the wheelhouse. And that can probably be the captain's most prideful moments.
Yeah, one of Tidewater's tugs is coming up river at us right now.
Northwest Outdoors heads to Ellensburg to get some tips on training your hunting
Make sure
dog.
that you're getting your dog into the wind. Keep him in gun range. Hunt it up. This dog wants to hunt. He can get out a little bit farther. Take your time and watch your dog. These young dogs, when they get birdie, you better have your gun up.
First, let's stop by the Collector's Corner, where Northwest Outdoors fishing host Hobart Manns shows what to look for if you like to collect antique tackle.
Here in the Northwest, fishing tackle abounds, and antique fishing tackle is where you find it. You can find it at estate sales, garage sales, antique shops. Somebody will call you and tell you that Joe Blow is getting rid of his stuff. Would you be interested? If you look around, you'll find antique fishing tackle throughout the Northwest at garage sale and modest prices. One of the neat things that I've gotten into recently has been antique gaffs. Gaffs went out of disfavor and became illegal just a few years back, and now you can find gaffs almost every place for just a few cents, 2 bits, maybe $1 or $2, and they're collectible, and they're neat, and they all have history and different uses. This small gaff is one that you would carry in a backpack or maybe in your tackle bag. This handmade gaff that someone made from the limb of a willow tree or a maple tree was a nice piece of work, but it's handmade. These two are folding gaffs. This one's in a retracted position. This is a smaller backpack model in the extended position. These two are antique commercial picaroons, and they were used by commercial fishermen to move fish from one box to another box in their boat. The gaff you see up front is a 3 or 4 section screw together gaff. They unscrew. Those sections would fit in your tackle bag or your pack, making it easy to carry and handy to have. Another thing that we found recently that was just fun to find is a net. Just an ordinary net, except for the fact that it has a scale dial here. And if you'll notice that if we pull, we load the scale up by putting a fish in the bag and pulling it back and forth. You can see that the scale moves, tells me how big the fish was. Of course, this didn't last long, didn't function well, and broke, making it highly collectible. Look around the Northwest and you'll find information in good books like this that show you pictures of objects, values of objects, what they're worth, how to find them, how collectible they are. You really need to bone up on your history, bone up on your collectability, and it will make your fishing collection during the off-season great fun.
The sagebrush-filled landscape of eastern Washington can be a lot of work to negotiate by foot. If you are a dog, it can be extra tough. Hot and dry, this part of Mother Nature's landscape is unforgiving for the unprepared. This is the foothills outside of Ellensburg in eastern Washington. Although it's not hospitable to most inhabitants, upland birds like pheasant, chukar, and quail call this home. This is also the backyard for the Cooke Canyon Hunt Club. Cooke Canyon offers self-guided hunts on this shooting preserve for clients looking for a fair chase hunt. Northwest Outdoors is here to get a few tips from dog training expert Linda Rosalini Burns. Burns calls herself a behavior consultant and spends her time helping hunters train and help their dogs in positive ways.
Get up there. Find it. Where do you think it is? To the right? Okay, let's move that.
Oh, there we go.
That wasn't too low, was it, Linda?
There, boy. Find it. Let it up. Use that nose God gave you, pup. See now, he's trying to find the wind. See, he's working really hard. I'm trying to take advantage of the wind. There he is. He's on it. Come on, roll. Good man. Attaboy. What you got? Here. Drop it. Good. Good job, pup. Every time you go hunting, you want to make sure that the dog is successful. You want to use the wind as much as you can so that the dog is successful. There's a time and a place for failure, and sometimes in hunting that does happen. Here. Dog expends a lot of energy. Until you get to the place where you're hunting, keep your dog under control. Hey, here, sit. That's where field obedience is really important. Don't let your dog run and run. Make absolutely sure that he's under control until you're in the area where you want to hunt. Then go ahead and release him. Make sure that you're getting your dog into the wind. Keep him in gun range. Hunt it up. This dog wants to hunt. He can get out a little bit farther. Take your time and watch your dog. These young dogs, when they get birdie, you better have your gun up. Here. Only time I use a whistle is when I want the dog all the way in the back. Otherwise, I'll whistle through my teeth. I don't like to talk to the dog. It scares game, so I keep that at an absolute minimum. Whistles for one thing, that's to bring the dog back home.
Uh-oh, he's on something. He's on something. Get ready.
Young dogs and birds. We want to make sure that we get birds on puppies as early as 8 weeks of age. You want to make sure that your training birds are planted and covered that you're actually going to hunt in. If you live in Western Washington and you hunt over here in Eastern Washington, it's a totally different environment. So you want to come over here and get your dogs used to this cover before you ever come over. Western Washington is a whole different thing as far as upland birds go. So my advice is to make sure those young dogs get over here before the fact. And you plant some birds and this kind of stuff so that they can understand how to get them. Hop, hey! Watch where he goes. Easy. Attaboy. Here. Drop. Good job. Thank you, sir. You can see this dog's getting a little overheated. It's time for a rest now. If he gets too overheated, what you want to do is you want to get the whole dog wet. The process of the evaporation will cool off the dog, and you won't have any disasters happen.
He's getting birdie.
Watch the tail, watch the dog, watch the tail. You'll see that I have a Tritronics electric collar here, and what I'm doing is just creating a invisible fence line for the dog to make sure that he stays in gun range. What I want to do is just give him a tap, remind him that he needs to stay close. It's not going to hurt the dog, just remind the dog that we need to keep going. So come on, pup, let's go out there. Keep him out in front of you, Ed. Whistle him up. Gunners up. Gunners up. Gunners up. Gunners up.
Proper training of your dog will only make your hunting experience more efficient and enjoyable. When the hunt is over, there are a few things to follow up on to ensure the continued health of your dog.
Just a couple things. We've got liquid Band-Aid in case we get any wire cuts. We've also got eye wash. What we're looking for in the dog is we're looking to make sure that we don't have any cheek grass or any little seeds in there. If we do, we're going to wash those out. Always also take the dog's paws up and look for cheatgrass in between those toes. If you have any type of wounds at all, that's what you've got the liquid Band-Aid for. It'll cover it until you get to the vet. So you can do all your field first aid right here in the field.
According to Linda, your hunt will only be as good as your dog, so your animal's health is vital. Avid hunter Jamie Whitney has a great recipe for those game birds when it's time to fire up the barbecue.
Okay, we've just finished a great hunt, and we're going to show you some simple ways to prepare some chucker and some quail. We've got some chucker breasts here wrapped with bacon, stuffed with an onion wedge, and we're also going to show you how to prepare some shish kebabs. We've got some mushrooms, some green peppers, some onions, and some seasoning that we're just going to use for that. We'll go ahead and prepare a skewer here.
Okay, what are you using now?
We've got a mushroom, and we've got some chucker breasts here, chucker breast meat. Got some red peppers.
Little onion.
Little onions, great, yeah, and then some green peppers also, just something to add some color to this and some great flavor.
Oh.
Got some zucchini here, some squash.
You ever use tomatoes or anything?
Tomatoes are good too, just kind of a personal preference, whatever you've got in the kitchen.
Okay.
Things can be seasoned up with a little garlic salt, salt and pepper. Doesn't need a lot of, yeah, go ahead and why don't you make one of those up.
Okay, just skewer eye.
Hey, however you want to do it.
Okay. Then we're going to put this on the Barbie, is that right?
Yeah, we're going to barbecue these right up.
Are we going to season them before or after?
Actually, we're going to season when we get them on the grill. We're going to use some of this Yoakum Farms pheasant seasoning.
Okay. When do you use the Jack Daniels?
That can be basted onto the shish kebabs at any time, and also the breasts.
Okay.
Then you can use that as a marinade also.
Mine's not quite as nice as yours.
Well, hey, that'll be great. Okay, why don't we go ahead and put these on the grill?
Okay, I'll hold.
That'd be great.
Now's the time for seasoning or not now?
Yeah, let's do some seasoning. Here, why don't you go ahead and put that on there?
Okay. Right. Pheasant seasoning on chucker.
Yeah, it's great on any game birds. Why don't we go ahead and put these breast pieces on now, get them started as well.
Now you stuffed those with something. What do they got in them?
They got an onion wedge in there just to kind of give them some extra flavor, and they're wrapped with bacon.
Did you season them on the inside at all?
Yeah, you could season them or you could marinate them if you wanted. Actually, here's one of the little quail we got, a bobwhite quail.
Ooh, great.
And another quail as well. Why don't you go ahead and season those up also?
You want me to do it with a Jack Daniels or with a...
Yeah, we could season that.
Okay. This is the mesquite stuff. Ooh. No, pup. I know you'd love to get some of this too, but maybe later. We'll put a little bit on some of these.
Let's check these out. Oh, they're looking good.
Ooh.
Gonna base those up with a little barbecue sauce.
Can I?
You
now,
bet.
How do I ensure when I'm out in the field that these are going to turn out looking this good? I mean, what are your tips
You want
on
to take
that?
a lot of care. You want to make sure you get the meat cooled properly. Carry coolers of ice with you if you're going to away from home for a long time. Just keep things clean. Get things, take the feathers off and get them cleaned up as soon as possible and keep them fresh.
Okay, these don't have, I noticed that these don't have any skins off, so you just totally skin them?
Yeah, just totally skin them, take them all off.
Boy, these really look good. This is a good job.
This show ends with a survival tip on signaling from former Air Force instructor Peter Kummerfeld.
You know, I've been a survival instructor for over 35 years of my life. And in the course of that time, I've debriefed many, many people that have been in survival situations. Do you know what the common denominator was with those people? They weren't as prepared as they would have liked to have been. Some of them were totally unprepared. When I get out of my truck, when I go fishing or hunting or backpacking, this is what I take with me. And in here I've got everything I need. Maybe you don't want to carry this much. So you can break it down into a much smaller pouch. If you had a pouch this size, you could be much better prepared than many of the people that have gone before you that found themselves in emergencies. Have the ability to start a fire a couple of different ways. A metal match is an outstanding fire starting tool, much better than matches. A good signal mirror to bounce a beam of sunlight to a passing airplane perhaps. Some flagging tape to indicate your position, make flags out of. A whistle. Your voice is a terrible signal. A whistle lasts much, much longer. And perhaps most importantly, a heavy-duty, giant-sized Department of Transportation trash bag to shelter yourself. If you had these few things, you can survive. In addition to the ability to start a fire and the ability to shelter yourself, you also need to learn how to attract attention to yourself. After all, if you can get rescued, you're out of your survival situation and you don't need shelter and fire. So how do you do that? Well, with some basic pieces of equipment. A mirror, for example, and a whistle are fundamental pieces of survival equipment. A whistle you can blow all day long. You can't yell all day long. This is what's going to attract the attention of ground search teams. If you need to attract the attention of an aerial searcher, somebody's flying by in a helicopter or an airplane, then a mirror works extremely well. For example, a CD-ROM can be used very efficiently to reflect light from your position to an aircraft or to somebody on a passing hillside, or maybe even somebody out on a lake on a boat. The way to do this is to shine the light onto your hand, as you see me doing here, look through the hole at the light on your hand, and use the gap between your fingers to aim the reflective surface. Get the target between your fingers, and with a light on the palm of your hand, you know you're on target, and they will see that beam of light being reflected up to them. Commercial signal mirrors, which have an aiming hole in them and a mesh screen embedded with little glass beads, enable you to put that reflected light very precisely on a passing searcher. Once again, find the light on your hand, look through at the light on your hand, and a bright sunspot will form on that screen. Then by manipulating the mirror, wherever you put that sunspot, that's where that beam of light is going. For example, and that sunspot will reach out 25, 30 miles or more on a bright sunny day like it is today. Most people, when they use flagging tape, will tear off a piece of tape and hang it vertically from a branch. The problem with that is, all it takes is one tree in front of that piece of flagging tape and it disappears. I recommend tearing off about 6 feet of tape and tying it horizontally between a couple of trees or between branches, and in that way, even though there may be a tree or two in front of it, as you're looking for it, you can still see parts of it. It makes it so much easier to find your trail, or for rescuers to find your location based on your flagging tape signal that you've put up. Some flagging tape, a good glass mirror, and a loud whistle. With those pieces of equipment, you can get rescued, and rescued quickly. Without them, you might have to rely on your survival skills for a lot longer period.
Check out Northwest Outdoors online to learn more about this show number 1601. Coming up on the next Northwest Outdoors.
And that should put us down about 15 to 20 feet, and that's where the fish are on cue.
There are some things you need to know in order to catch crappie. Hobart Mans shows you how on Brownlee Reservoir in eastern Oregon.
This is what we're looking for. Ones that look just like this. Get my thumb in here so he doesn't get me with that lure. But that's a nice hand-sized crappie.
Also, wood carvings aren't what they used to be. Yakima, Washington artist Doug Harrison is an expert carver. Also, learn how to cook chicken strips the next time you're in camp. That's on the next Northwest Outdoors.
Funding for Northwest Outdoors is made possible in part by Kershaw Knives of Portland, Oregon, makers of precision tools and cutlery. Kershaw Knives strongly supports outdoor programming as well as responsible outdoor activities throughout the Pacific Northwest. And by Subaru, engineered and designed for all types of activities in the great outdoors. The craftsmen and women that repair